As it approaches Earth, particularly on December 19th, we will have an excellent chance to utilize the hundreds of telescopes located on our planet, along with the Hubble and James Webb Space Telescopes, to gather our most accurate data on it. So, mark your calendars for December 19th, 2025. In just 12 days, 3I Atlas will reach its closest point to Earth. The object that many merely labeled a comet is exhibiting behaviors that are unlike typical comets. It has developed a sunward antitail that extends 60,000 kilometers, 5 times the diameter of Earth, directly facing the Sun as it moves away from it. A color transition occurs, shifting from red to green to electric blue as it recedes into the frigid expanse of space, when it should be fading to gray. The ratios of methanol to hydrogen cyanide measure at an astounding 124.1, a chemistry so unusual that it has only been observed once before in the peculiar comet that was most unusual ever documented. NASA refers to it as natural. Aviv describes it as either a friendly gardener sowing life or a serial killer disseminating poison. If you've been following 3I Atlas and something about the mainstream narrative feels off, you're not alone. Hit that subscribe button, give a thumbs up, and let's analyze the Hubble images they're not discussing, the radio signals they're downplaying, and the heavy particle debris that seems incongruous. In just 12 days, we'll have our last clear view of this entity before it vanishes for good. So, let's begin with the visual evidence that appears to be going unnoticed. On November 30th, 2025, the Hubble captured an image of 3 Atlas at 0.0404 arcsec per pixel, the highest resolution image we've obtained of this object. It reveals something that should not be there, a clearly defined antitail extending over 60,000 kilometers towards the Sun. In standard cometary physics, antitails are merely optical illusions. When Earth intersects with a comet's orbital plane, we see both sides of the dust trail simultaneously, creating the illusion of material directed toward the Sun. However, this effect is merely a perspective trick. The material isn't genuinely heading toward the Sun, it just appears to, from our viewpoint. But 3 Atlas displays this feature consistently. It exhibited the same sunward extension in the July Hubble images. After Perry Holland, the antitail reversed its direction relative to the comet's path. A's assessment is straightforward. This behavior is abnormal in known comets and requires an explanation. What makes it impossible to ignore is that the antitail is perpetually pointing towards the Sun, irrespective of the object's trajectory. This is not how solar wind typically behaves. Solar wind consists of a 400 km/s stream of charged particles that strips material from the Sun. Comet tails are supposed to point away. Both ion tails and dust tails comply with this rule. Material travels with the solar wind, not against it. Yet, 3 Atlas is presenting a lance-like narrow jet that pierces directly into the solar wind. Amateur astronomer Michael Jagger captured side-by-side comparisons with typical comets. Comet Lemon, a regular visitor from the solar system, shows 2 tails, one dust and the other ion, both being swept backward by solar pressure. In contrast, 3 Atlas displays these 2 tails, plus this sunward spike that defies natural explanation. Lowe's paper anticipated this before the November 30th image was taken. He calculated that if 3 Atlas released a cluster of macroscopic objects near perihelion, they would separate from the nucleus by around 60,000 kilometers by late November. The Hubble image confirms this precisely. That's not just a fortunate coincidence, it's predictive modeling. Initially, 3 Atlas appeared deep red, the color typical of an object that has been exposed to cosmic rays for millions of years. Standard for interstellar travelers. As it neared the Sun, it transitioned to green due to the vaporization of diatomic carbon cyanogen molecules under solar heating. Rare but natural. But now, as it speeds away from the Sun and back into the frigid void, it is glowing electric blue. This intriguing detail remains unexplained. Blue light signifies high energy. On Earth, it is observed during lightning, in nuclear reactors, and from extremely hot flames. In space, blue indicates ionized gases, where carbon monoxide and nitrogen burn at extreme temperatures. However, here lies the dilemma. 3 Atlas is moving away from the heat source. It has passed perihelion, and the sun's intensity diminishes with every second. The object should be cooling, the outgassing must be slowing, and the glow should revert to red or gray. Yet instead, the blue intensity is increasing. This suggests the presence of an internal energy source. One theory proposes that the sun stripped away its ancient red crust, unveiling pristine ice from a different star system, an unprecedented surface we've yet to witness. While plausible, it does not clarify why the blue persists as the object cools. Another unsettling theory, the one that keeps researchers up at night, suggests that the blue light is not merely chemistry, but rather exhaust. If 3I Atlas used the sun for an Oberth maneuver, leveraging a gravitational boost amplified by firing its engines at closest approach, then that blue glow could represent the afterburn of an operational propulsion system still engaged as the object accelerates outward. This theory is speculative, but the sequence of colors, red, green, blue, seems systematic, akin to stages of ignition. The Atacama Large Millimeter Signed Sub-Millimeter Array, ALMA-I, has been investigating the gas cloud enveloping 3 Atlas, revealing shocking results. There are vast amounts of methanol, CH3, and hydrogen cyanide, HCN. These are far from random molecules. They are prebiotic compounds, foundational for amino acids, including adenosine, anthocyanin, essential component of DNA, and the organic chemistry required for life. The critical detail is that the methanol to hydrogen cyanide ratio is a staggering 124.1, an astoundingly high measurement. The only other comet exhibiting a remotely comparable ratio was C216R2, one of the most chemically peculiar objects documented. However, C216R2 originated from our solar system, whereas 3 Atlas comes from somewhere entirely different. Kaku directly raises the question, is this object a serial killer distributing poison or a nurturing gardener? While hydrogen cyanide is undeniably toxic, in cosmic terms, it acts as a starter kit. Methanol, a vital ingredient for life, can be found in star-forming regions, in protoplanetary disks, and within the atmospheres of moons like Titan. Microorganisms on Earth utilize methanol as their exclusive energy source, and plants naturally produce it through the breakdown of cell walls. If 3I Atlas serves as a vessel for panspermia, a natural comet carrying life's building blocks, its chemistry makes complete sense. However, the specific ratio, the venting pattern, and the directed jets imply something more deliberate. If one were to design a probe to disseminate life across worlds, prebiotic molecules would be loaded, safeguarded in a frozen envelope, and released once solar heating activated the payload, employing directional jets for dispersal while leaving heavy particles that resist solar wind to settle into stable orbits. This is precisely what we are observing. On November 10th, the Meerkat radio telescope in South Africa picked up emissions from 3I Atlas at 1665 and 1667 megahertz. The internet was abuzz. It's phoning home. It's a beacon. The official explanation points to hydroxyl radicals, O molecules disintegrating under sunlight, a natural, expected, and mundane occurrence. Yet there's a buried detail. The signal remains steady. Normal cometary radio noise produces bursts that fade as the object rotates. Active vents shift towards and away from Earth, creating variations. However, the signal from 3I Atlas hums consistently. If this is natural outgassing, the venting would need to be uniformly spread across the surface, or the rotation must be so swift that it averages out. But if it's artificial, A steady carrier wave precisely aligns with what one would expect from an operational system, perhaps in standby mode or acting as a relay. Nobody is labeling it alien, but no one explains why there are no fluctuations either. Now, let's transition from strange to deliberate. 3 Atlas is shedding pebbles, not fine dust, but gravel. These particles are too substantial to be swept away by solar radiation pressure. Fine dust is easily dispersed from the solar system by sunlight, disappearing within weeks, while heavy particles linger. They settle into orbits and integrate into our system. Why does this matter? Because if one were seeding a solar system, a fine spray wouldn't suffice. You would utilize larger seeds that remain long after your departure. Seeds that future planets might encounter, potentially surviving atmospheric entry to deliver their cargo to a planet's surface. The timing raises suspicion. 3 Atlas expels this material following its sun encounter, post-sterilization of perihelion after the heat and after its closest approach. It almost feels as though the sun acted as the trigger. I have arrived. I am warm. Release the payload. Are these dormant biological packages, geological samples designed to drift until discovered? Or are they just ordinary rocks? 3 Atlas is on a hyperbolic trajectory, too swift to be captured by the sun. It's merely passing through. Yet the manner in which it's passing through is making orbital dynamicists uneasy. The object exhibits non-gravitational acceleration. Comets typically exhibit this as well. Outgassing creates thrust, but usually that thrust is chaotic, causing the comet to tumble and creating disorder. However, 3 Atlas displays smooth acceleration. It is consistent. And the jets, along with the anti-tail directed at the sun, function like stabilizers, maintaining orientation. Some months ago, Lowe suggested that if this were an artificial object, it might use the sun for a gravity assist, diving deep, firing engines at closest approach, and slingshotting out at maximum velocity. 3 Atlas dove into proximity that should have obliterated a rubble pile, yet it did not disintegrate. Instead, it brightened, it shifted colors, and it emerged with a trajectory that is slightly misaligned from a purely gravitational curve. Is it correcting its trajectory, or is it simply attempting to escape as swiftly as possible? In 12 days, 3I Atlas will reach a distance of 188 astronomical units from Earth, approximately 269 million kilometers away, yet still within the reach of every major telescope both on and off our planet. James Webb is observing, Hubble is scrutinizing, and every radio dish capable of tilting will be pointing at that blue dot. What are we searching for? The hull. That luminous coma, the gas and dust, acts as a veil, enveloping the nucleus in fog thousands of kilometers thick. We know it's substantial, perhaps 5 kilometers wide, but we can't resolve its shape. Is it a jagged rock, or is it smooth and cylindrical? On December 19th, the angle will shift, allowing sunlight to illuminate it from the side. We may be able to see through the thinning tail, possibly catching a glimpse of the nucleus's shadow. If the shell fractures and the gas dissipates, we will finally know. After that moment, the opportunity closes. By March 2026, it will have crossed the orbit of Jupiter. By the early 2030s, it will become a mere specter in the outer darkness, fading away indefinitely. Here's the unsettling reality. It isn't halting. It isn't slowing down. It isn't sending us messages. It's performing the tasks of scouts. Mapping, sampling, marking, and moving. If those hefty particles serve as markers, if that anti-tail acts as a relay, and if that blue glow indicates an engine still operating, we may have just been cataloged. The friendly gardener hypothesis suggests it brings life. The serial killer hypothesis implies it brings poison. The scout hypothesis indicates it is returning data to someone else. What do you think 3 Atlas truly is? A natural comet? A vessel for panspermia? or something we're not yet equipped to identify? Share your theories below. Subscribe to ensure you don't miss the data on December 19th, and spread the word because in just 12 days, we either receive answers or witness it slip away into the darkness forever.